Grab some potatoes. Then draw a few fall designs that will fit on a potato. The simpler the design, the better. Then cut them out. Cut your potato in half and dry it off with a paper towel. Then place your design on the cut side and with a sharp knife, cut around the design. Make sure to cut to a depth of at least 1/4 inch. Then coming in from the side, cut away the potato up to your design and remove the excess potato. Repeat the same process with the leaves to go with the acorn. Repeat the process to make the potato stamps for the fall leaves, just like you did with the acorns. Now it's time to start stamping, but make sure you give it a few tries on paper towel first. I used acrylic paint, and the colors I used for the acorn are burnt umber, burnt sienna, and deep ochre. Paint burnt umber on the top and burnt sienna on the bottom of the acorn. Then paint some deep ochre as a highlight on one side of the acorn. Now press it onto a paper towel. Then press it again a few more times. As you will see, the first stamp is quite opaque and the colors are rich. The next stamp, the colors are a bit translucent and more of a watercolor feel. The final stamp is quite light. For my napkins, I'm going to be using the first 2 stamps, being the opaque version and the medium opacity version. Simply stamp your acorns in a design that is pleasing to you. Next, we'll be doing the leaves. I used hunter green, Hauser medium green, aloe, and deep ochre. Place the leaves intermittently between the acorns. Lastly, paint on the branches between the acorns and leaves. I used burnt umber and then highlighted with fawn on the branches and on the top of the acorns to give more texture to the top. Here are the different versions of the acorns, some with 3 leaves and some with 5. Look how great both opaque and translucent look. I think I prefer the translucent version because it feels like a watercolor painting. I will be using these napkins at our fall table. For the fall leaves version, I used Santa Red, burnt sienna, spiced pumpkin, and deep ochre. For this design, I stamped 3 times before reapplying paint. I started with the leaves very full and layered at the top, and then did fewer and fewer leaves as I made my way to the bottom. I switched it up with the paint colors and got lots of different looks. I love how this turned out when I styled it with some deep reddish pink faux sunflowers in a basket on the end of my island. What a fun project this turned out to be. I hope you'll give it a try.
Grab some Elmer school glue for this renter-friendly project. First, I gave my window a really good cleaning. You'll want to make sure that there is no dirt or grime on your window before you start this project. Then I grabbed some masking tape to mask out an abstract design on my window. This is optional and you can leave it off if you'd like. I grabbed one of these little sponge rollers from Dollar Tree, and then I'm going to take my Elmer's glue and pour it straight into the tray. I rolled my sponge roller into the tray of glue and I'm squeezing out a lot of the excess. You don't want your roller to be oversaturated. Then I just rolled my glue onto the window in a nice, thin, even layer. For a nice, even, and smooth finish, you'll want to roll your window in one direction. Once I was finished rolling the window, I removed that masking tape before the Elmer's glue could dry. Let the Elmer's glue completely dry, and then you have a wonderful privacy window that is also renter-friendly and can be easily removed.
You're never going to use wallpaper again after you see how easy this DIY is. I started by wiping the walls in our RV with TSP, but you can do this project on any type of walls. And then I wiped them dry, and I opened up some leftover paint from our bathroom. It's called Calder Green from Benjamin Moore. I tried using a foam roller to apply the paint directly to a stamp, but it was too much paint, so then I tested it out by rolling the paint on a piece of paper and pressing the stamp into it, and that worked really well. You want to make sure you have a very thin layer of paint. The paper was a bit thin, so I ended up switching to a plastic plate, and I would roll out a thin layer and press the stamp into the paint and then press it on the wall. I altered between 3 different dinosaur stamps, and I stamped them with the paint all throughout my son's bunk nook in our RV, but this could be a fun project for any room or wall in your home. It's way more cost effective than wallpaper, and it turned out super well. Here is the final look of our painted stamp wall. I can't believe this was all from a stamp. What do you think? Would you give this one a try? I hope this inspires you to get creative with paint and stamps.
Do you have curtain panels that need a little color and a shot of artistic creativity? Lay your curtain on a flat surface and smooth out any wrinkles or folds. Take a plastic bag, a grocery sack will do. Gather the bottom of the bag together and tie it into a tight knot. Then turn the plastic bag inside out so the knot is on the inside. Gather the middle of the bag together and blow into the bottom of the bag. With a paintbrush, brush fabric paint onto the bottom of the inflated plastic bag, starting in the center and brushing outward 2, 3, 4 inches, whatever you like. Keeping the middle of the bag twisted, press the paint-covered bag bubble onto the fabric panel. Lift the bag off and you will see a beautiful abstract painted flower. Continue to press painted flowers randomly on the curtain panel. To continue the abstract look, press some flowers with the bag freshly covered with paint, and then press other flowers with less paint for fainter-looking flowers. Give your flowers some depth by repeating this process with a coordinating color. However, this time, don't press quite as many flowers so your first color is still the dominant color. Or you could add as many colors as you want and create a more dense flower pattern. Let the painted flowers dry completely before rehanging the panels on your curtain rod. You are going to love your new hand-painted curtain panels with this creative paint twist. I hope this inspired you to take a simple plastic bag and, with some paint, create new hand-painted abstract floral curtains.
You won't believe how I transformed these boring old plates from the thrift store. To get started, I shook the pen well and then pressed it up and down with the tip until the paint came out. I started by drawing some simple lines on the cute snail-shaped plate, and it was so easy to correct any mistakes. I just used alcohol wipes to clean it up, and I made sure it was dry before using the pen on it again. I colored on 3 different plates of various sizes with a nautical fisherman's core sort of theme. As per the directions on the porcelain pen, I let the plates sit for 24 hours, and then I placed them in the oven at 300 degrees for 30 minutes. This makes them dishwasher safe, although I don't think they are food safe. I displayed them above my coffee bar with some of our favorite ocean-themed decor, and I love how they turned out. What do you think? Would you try this easy thrifted decor hack?
What does a solo cup have to do with painting? I'll show you how I used a solo cup for a paint project, and it has nothing to do with washing out my paintbrush. My first step in this painting project was to set the background base color. Once my background color was painted and given a few hours to dry, I was ready to use the solo cup to add my accents. I poured some white paint onto a paper plate and dipped just the rim of the solo cup into the paint. The next step was to place it on my base color. In this way, I got a perfect circle of white onto the blue. I applied it several times before re-dipping it into the white paint again. One thing I'd do differently and that I'd caution you about is that I'd do my first application of the solo cup with paint on it onto a napkin before placing it onto my project. This way I'd avoid the little bit of splatter that comes with that first application where there's a little bit of overage on the rim of the solo cup. The process was really quick and easy, and I loved the pattern it created. My project was finished in no time, and it looked great. It was easy to create a uniform pattern, and of course I could pick whatever colors worked with my color scheme. You can use this technique to paint a pattern on a wall or paint it onto a large canvas like I did.
Spring is right around the corner, and it's a perfect time to get ready for those home improvements. First thing we want to do is look at painting. What a perfect way to get our house into shape. First, you got to look at the paint can. There's nothing worse than spilling paint all around the edge. I've got an important solution for that. Go ahead and grab you a clear plastic bottle. On this bottle, we want to cut it off just at the top. Once it's cut off, you're going to slip it right over the paint can. It's going to be a snug fit, but that's what we're looking for. Go ahead and take one of your hair dryers or a heat gun, and you're going to start heating it up all around the side. Once it starts heating up, it's going to form and seal itself to the edge of the paint can. Once you get it all the way around and you get it cooled down, look at that. It pours absolutely perfect. And since you got a lid, you can put the lid on, and it's going to keep it nice and fresh and clean for you every time. Colors in a room, especially on the corner or an edge where two walls meet, you can make it where it has a nice crisp line with no bleed under. What you do is you take that painter's tape and go ahead and put it right down where you want it. Here's the catch though. Take some caulk from a caulking gun and lay it on top of the paint right at the edge of that tape. When you put it on there, just rub it all through, and it's going to fill in those gaps, even on those heavy textured walls. Once you get it on there, go ahead and take just a damp cloth and just get it wiped off. What it's going to do is leave the caulking underneath and fill in the gaps on the paint. When you brush that paint on, make sure you paint it from tape to wall. Go in that motion all the way down. Once you pull that tape off, look at that. It's going to give you a nice, straight, crisp edge with no bleed under. Have you ever had a big paint project that requires a lot of brushing? Take you a brush. Go ahead and drill right at the top at an angle, a hole big enough to put a cap inside. This cap right here is perfect. What you're going to do is take some hot glue and glue it right on. When it gets on there and you let it dry, put some paint inside your bottle and screw it on. When you turn the brush over, it's going to allow it to drip really slow, but just at enough pace where you can just keep on painting and you never have to just keep dipping it. You can just keep going till you run out of paint. It makes a long project go much faster. And when you're done, it's easy to take that brush off, put a cap on the paint to keep it stored and fresh, and it's easy to clean. Just run some water right through that cap edge that stays on the brush, and it cleans right up inside and out. Have you ever painted a wall and forget what color it was or what type or brand? Perfect solution is when you pull your covers off of your outlets or your switches, you want to go ahead and write on the inside the name of the color, the brand that you got it from, and what type of gloss it is. Then you can go ahead and take your finger and just put a little bit of that sample paint on the inside, and when you put your cover back on, you always know it's right there for reference anytime you want to do some touch-up painting. Another thing that we always hate when we're painting is getting little drip marks either on doorknobs or hinges. Just take a little bit of Vaseline and just wipe it on those doorknobs. The great thing about it is, let's say you put some paint on there accidentally or it drips. It's so easy just to wipe right off. That Vaseline keeps it from sticking. No need to tape it up. Now it's time to lay some caulking in those places that it needs it so bad, especially around a tub. Take that caulking and go ahead and lay it on, but don't put it on too thick. Once you lay it in between your tub and the tile, just take a popsicle stick, run it at an angle all the way down, and it gives you that perfect curve for get a perfect caulk line every time. Now here's a way to keep from wasting water in a leaky toilet. What you have to do is take the lid off the top and put some food dye in the back of the tank. Open up the lid and you're going to take a look. If you see that the water in the bowl is changing color, you've got a leak. It's most likely from your flapper inside. Go ahead and get that replaced and you'll save a lot of water that'll pay for that flapper. Last but not least, is your dryer not working as good as you think it should? Maybe you've got a buildup of lint. It's easy to get the lint out from the dryer. There's an area that you just can't get to. And if you try to use a vacuum, it just can't get inside those little grooves. Go ahead and grab the cardboard from a paper towel roll and you're just going to squeeze it along its edges, not too tight, but just enough to squeeze through that little slot that it needs to get into. Put your vacuum on one end, turn it on, and you're going to go ahead and get in there and get all that lint out that's been trapped in there probably for years. I hope that this inspired you to come up with your own painting and home improvement hacks. Thank you for watching Home Talk,